Chaos is everywhere, but steady leaders rise above it with clarity. I'm your host, Schuyler Williamson, and this is the Steady Leader Podcast. Whether you're leading a team, a company, your family, or just yourself, this show gives you the tools to stay calm, think clearly, and lead with confidence. Let's get steady. All right, welcome everybody to the Steady Leader Podcast. There's no more important time in this world than today to have more steady leaders. And I pray that those of you that tune in for this take things away that you're going to implement into your leadership so that you can go out into the world and be steady for those that depend on you to lead and just spread love and to the greatest ability that you can. And I'm super excited today to have Jordan Montgomery with me. I feel like I've known him forever, although our relationship's pretty short. But he's a nationally recognized performance coach, a keynote speaker, and a best-selling author. He's from a small town in Iowa, but he's become a trusted advisor to executives, athletes, and entrepreneurs nationwide. He's a devoted husband. He's a dad. He has a heart for people and a passion for leadership. And Jordan, welcome. We're just so grateful for your time today and excited about the value you're going to bring.
Schuyler, excited to spend time with you, man. I've really enjoyed getting to know you, over the past few months, just the conversation shared. And, John White was the one that connected us. So shout out John White. I have so much respect for John, and I know he has a ton of respect for you. So there's just immediate trust and respect, on our conversations. And, man, a joy to be able to hang with you today and spend some time. So thanks for having me.
Well, it's our pleasure. And respect. Usually when I text someone early, especially if they're west of me, they're still sleeping. And every time I've texted you, Jordan, you've been awake. And I want to give you that respect because it's a low conversion rate when I try to have a conversation with someone early in the morning. So kudos to you getting after it.
Listen, man, I go to bed early like you. We've got, young kids, and I'm getting gray hair, so I'm getting old, man. I'm in bed early and up early. That's just kind of how we roll. So most days it works out okay.
All right. In every podcast, I love to start with the definition of leadership because I think every one of us has a little bit of a unique spin to it. So for those of that are listening right now, what is your definition of leadership so that they know everything else we talk about is kind of based on that?
Yeah, I think if we're talking leadership, my own personal definition would be doing all that you can with all that you have in service to others. And I think if you're doing all that you can with all that you have in service to others, you're going to lead and make a difference. I know it's been said, over the years, leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. It's not that I don't subscribe to that. I just think some people have influence and maybe they shouldn't. I think it's really about living a life of abundance and saying, man, it's not about me, but it starts with me. I think if you're living with that kind of a posture and spirit, you can make a real difference in the world.
Amen to that. I mean, I usually jump into just how you lead yourself, but if you're talking to someone who is choosing a mentor or choosing a leader to follow and giving their influence away, what are some of those traits just as a young person trying to choose the right leader to go work for to develop them? What would you tell them to look for in their leader?
I would look for order of loves. It'd be the first thing I would look for.
Mm-hmm.
So you can find a lot of people in this world that are lighting it up in business. They're having all kinds of success or making a bunch of money. They have a big brand. They have a really cool business. Maybe even they're doing a lot of great things in business. Maybe they're providing a lot of value. They're teaching and training people and having an impact. But if they aren't leading well at home, they don't have a great marriage, or they're not trying to pursue their spouse, or they're not present with their kids. And if you don't align with them from a faith and conviction and belief standpoint, I'd be careful how deep I would go with that leader. And so, find somebody that's going to help you grow in your faith. It's going to spur you on to be a better spouse or significant other if you're not married. And then also, that is going to help you lead well as a parent if you're fortunate enough and lucky to have kids. So I want to follow after leaders who are doing a great job in business, for sure, right? I mean, it's a big part of my life. My business is a big part of my life, but it comes way after, faith, marriage, and being a dad.
Yeah.
So, for me, those areas, and it's not that I can't learn something, Schuyler. We can learn something from anybody. I mean, I can learn from somebody who's not married or isn't a person of faith or even somebody who isn't really engaged with their kids. I still have a lot to learn from those people. But man, if I'm going to go deep with somebody, I want to make sure they're winning and leading in the most important areas of life.
Yeah. Well, we're about the same age, so I think this will resonate. A mentor once told me, "Hey, look, if you want to be able to play better defense in basketball, model your game after Dennis Rodman. But if you want to be a better person, that's probably not the person to follow in that regard." So we do have to pick and
Well, I know you subscribe to this too, like John Maxwell's personal definition of success. John's been a dear friend of mine for a long time and a mentor. He's opened a lot of doors. And he would say, I just want to be respected most by people who know me the best. I can get on board with that. You know, if first and foremost, I'm right with my Father in heaven, and secondly, I'm respected most by people who know me the best, I think I'll be okay.
No, I agree with that. What's interesting is that's my daughter, my oldest, she's 12. So she's in 6th grade now. So she's big girl. And we're working on that very thing right there. You know, you can't control the narrative in middle school that's going on around you. And so what we've got to do is we got to be able to hold those things captive in our mind and separate between what is true and what's not. You know, if the truth hurts, then maybe that's an opportunity for us to improve.
Mm,
But if it's not true, you know, let's just let that go. Let's just move on. The people that know us best, they know that's not true,
mm,
and that's more important, right?
mm.
Hard lesson to learn for a 12-year-old.
It is, man. Well, listen, we're in it together, right? Our oldest is 14 and we have 11, 6 and 3. So we're in it together, man. You're going through the same phase. So, but it is hard. And that's not, yeah, I don't think that's the message the world sells us. You know, I think we spend a lot of time trying to appease people on the periphery. And then because of that, people at the center of your life can suffer. So,
Yep.
and I see that in your leadership, Schuyler, just in getting to know you that, you know, you're also striving to be respected most by people that know you the best. So, yeah, man, I love that that shows up in your leadership.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah, just on the world's influence there, I heard a guy recently beat all around the bush, you know, try to teach something, and then I grabbed what I thought made sense to me in a simple way, and it's you have to know what your identity is as an individual because your identity will shape your mindset shapes your actions, and your actions produce the results.
That's right.
And, you know, again, just like so much of leadership we learn just with our family, you know, kind of controlling who they are. And the world does such a good job of telling you what you're not, or
Mm,
telling you what you should be, or this and that. Man, that identity, what you know, at the end of the day, what you say you are, it's going to shape who you are, like the results you produce for the world. You know, whether you multiply your gifts or
that's
you
right.
lose them all.
Yeah.
And yeah, be careful with who you listen to, right?
Yeah, well said. I think, you know, we work with so many folks in our professional life. As an executive coach, I spend a lot of time with athletes and professionals that have identity issues. And some of it, Skylar, is because, you know, like you, they go through a chapter of life where they had a specific identity. You know, maybe they were in the military, you know, like you, or they played a sport at a really high level. We see this a lot with pro athletes. They move on from sport and they really struggle because people fell in love with what they did, but they didn't really know who they are. And that creates a lot of issues. So if there was one area, if somebody said, "Hey, you get to pick a few areas to go deep with people and you get to work with people on this basis," I would say identity would be one of those areas. I think if we can get that right, to your point, a lot of other things fall into place.
All right. Well, before you can lead a team, you got to lead yourself. All right. I would love for you to share with everyone what are the things that you're doing. If you want to say daily or weekly or monthly, whatever, what are the things that you're doing to lead yourself that you know produce steady results?
I love this question because I do believe what you do daily establishes who you become permanently. And I don't think we decide our future. We decide our habits decide our future.
Mhm.
And the hardest person I've ever had to lead is myself. That will always be the case. Matter of fact, it's really easy for me to talk about leadership. We get on this podcast, somebody listening goes, "Oh, wow, Schuyler and Jordan, they got some great quotes and axioms and some great philosophies." And I heard two or three strategies. Just so you know, that's easy. Anybody could talk about leadership. Living leadership is a lot more difficult. So here's some things that have been difficult for me. They'll continue to be difficult. I don't think I'll ever arrive where I'm like, all these things are easy. I don't think it gets easier. I think we just do hard better. And these things have been hard for me, working out every day, not always convenient. I usually take a day or two of rest, depending on how our weekend shakes out. But usually Monday through Friday, there's some sort of physical activity. Friday mornings, it's a running group. I'm a non-runner in a running group, Schuyler. So that's an interesting, kind of dynamic, but I could still go 3 miles with the best of them at a slow pace. And honestly, sometimes it's just a broken, 25, 35-minute old man workout in our home gym. It's nothing fancy, but
Yeah.
if physiology affects psychology and I want to be the best version of myself, then I want to take care of the body that God gave me. So that's a big one. Time in the Word. Again, easy for us to say, oh, hey, that's important, and get into the Word. And man, I'd love to tell everybody, listen, I'm in the Word every single day. I miss days. I'm not perfect. But man, if I can get even 10 minutes in God's Word, it is a transformative experience. I believe it's one of the ways that God speaks. He took his son, but he left his book, and he designed us to be in his Word. And so I think for me, a big one is the daily discipline of being in the Word. And then, man, connecting with people who matter most. As simple as that sounds, there's days, Schuyler, where I, probably like you go really hard in business. And on those days, if I don't check in with my wife, or I'm not spending quality time with my kids, and I think on some level you're traveling or whatever, you have seasons in your business where that's going to happen, but those days just aren't nearly as rich, deep, and meaningful. So yeah, man, it's time with the Lord, time with my family. I'm a pretty simple guy, so I don't need a lot. I mean, hopefully I'm doing those things also, back to that definition of leadership and service to others, so yeah, man, I think those are some things that don't always come easy, but that are very important to me.
Yeah.
How about
Well, I
you,
know.
man? I'll throw it back to you. How do you give me the Schuyler Williamson answer to that question, man? What are you doing to lead yourself?
Well, I think it's a long answer. I do a lot of what you're talking about. I'll just add some color to what you're doing. We don't have a gym membership. I don't have a trainer. I do have I call it a COVID gym. I've got dumbbells, a TRX strap, a pull-up bar, and yeah, I get after it. I get after it every morning. Jordan, when I came back from combat for 50 nights in a row, I had nightmares that were severe nightmares that I'd wake up screaming, and my wife would be on the other side of the room, kind of yelling my name, trying to wake me up, but it scared her. And I had to change my routine a lot to put myself physically in a position where, I could handle some of the trauma that I went through. And I've learned this: if you move your body every day, it's a lot harder for stress to stay in it. And so yeah, I get after it because I know that if I eat healthy, if I sleep well, and I work out, then that stress that tries to get into my life, it's it's harder to, because I'm in a more physically relaxed position.
Yeah, well said.
That
Well said. Man, and stress at a totally different level than the average human,
what I
So
mean, but it's no different. The brain operates the exact same way. It's just my perspective of extreme is a little bit different. But some people, our children, their greatest extreme that they've been through is maybe when dad comes home and yells.
mm,
And that's just as traumatic for them that me getting blown up was for me. The brain operates the exact same way. And so we can't hold people accountable to living the life that we've lived. It's gotta be their life, right? I
well
was
said.
talking to somebody about this yesterday, because he wanted to hold his team highly accountable to some things that I was like, wait, whoa, man, like, you're the leader. You've got all this experience. You've got all this knowledge and grit from going through these adversities. And these are young people. And look, they're not as tough as you because they don't have the same scars that you do.
Mm,
And those scars are what bring the endurance. And you better watch out. Because the reality of it is if something's going wrong, we got to look at ourselves first as leaders.
yeah.
And then we can look at them. And I kind of spun it back on him and I said, all right, well, you have who you have and they're not you. So now how are you going to approach this problem?
That's good, Skyler. Well said, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
lots of wisdom there. Yep,
Yeah.
man.
Well, and I read the Bible every morning too. I am chasing wisdom in my life. I want to think at a much higher level. Um, every time I read the word, I do gather more wisdom. And look, I'm a soldier at heart. So when I close my eyes and I picture Jesus, I don't picture the hippie that's holding the lamb. I picture Jesus the warrior, the one that's going to come back and defeat evil. And and so I believe that when I read the word that I am literally strapping on the armor of God and I'm ready for battle. And I'm not this guy that's like super aggressive and raising my voice and doing all these things. But evil's not going to be around me. And it's certainly not going to be in a business that I run or any relationship that I'm involved
Mm,
with. And I think to have wisdom and and the ability to work someone through something like that, yeah, if you're not reading the word, you're playing 5 card poker with 4 cards. I mean, it's just hard.
mm,
It's harder. And, yeah, and it's not crazy. I'm not this crazy, like, "Oh, I'm spending all this time." I've got the daily Bible plan,
mm.
you know what? And God's in charge of that. I don't look ahead or I didn't create the plan. I just open it up. It says, "Today you're reading this." I read that. I pray and I think about it, and then I go about my day. It's what I need every time, every day.
It's good,
Yeah.
man. So good. Yeah. Well, I commend you on your discipline's been a thread for you, a theme in your life, clearly. But you've applied, and I think God's probably given you a different kind of capacity. You stewarded that well, but you clearly have a capacity about you.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
commend you on applying your discipline and your capacity to things that matter, that are eternally significant. So, uh,
Yeah.
yeah, man,
Goes back to identity, right?
it's all right.
Like yeah, I wake up, I'm a guy that gets up early, I'm a guy that exercises every morning, I'm a guy that reads the Bible every morning, I'm that guy, and I buy in. And then couple that with my stubbornness, and it's really hard to make me not the guy. Like, I'm the guy.
Hey, everybody. I have an exciting opportunity for you. We are looking to grow with Laundry Love. If you have ever thought about buying a business, if you've ever thought about buying into a franchise, look no further. Go into the show notes, send me an email. I will send you an email with all of the reasons why you should buy a laundromat and get in business with Laundry Love.
I love it. Come on. My kind of guy. I love it, man.
Yep. All right. Hey, so leading a team. All right, we're gonna shift gears a little bit, and now we're talking about your leadership, uh, with individuals and
Mm,
helping them be steady producers. What's the 1 or 2 things as the leader that you bring to your team that matters to their steady production?
mm. Well, I want to say a little bit about what I'm learning, Schuyler, maybe in this season of my life about leading teams. And I hope
Mm,
there's always something that I'm learning. One of the things that I feel like God's really teaching me right now is that leadership is more about asking questions than having answers. And I used to think, when I started coaching, I thought, man, I got to have a lot of advice and wisdom and things to share. And I got to make sure I come with content and strategies, concepts, ideas. And I realized, it's kind of this almost this paradox that the more influential or sophisticated the person was that I was working with or coaching, the more questions I would need to ask.
mhm,
I'm reminded, Book of James, it says everybody should be slow to speak and quick to listen.
mhm,
It's been said that knowledge speaks, wisdom listens. And so I think I'm just learning a lot in my life and my leadership right now about listening.
mhm,
And I think everybody wants to be heard, but I think when you're especially working with somebody who has a full plate and they're being stretched thin and they're spending all their time investing in other people, they just don't have a safe place where somebody will just listen.
yeah,
You know, my friend Bob Goff said most people need love more than they need advice.
yeah,
And so we just live in this world where, man, people want to give advice, and they want to consult and teach and train. And there's a time and a place for that. I'm not minimizing the importance of that. Certainly we do that in our work. But one of the things that I'm learning right now, Schuyler, is I got to do a better job of listening. I want to have more questions and answers. The second thing I would say is just increasing my awareness. I spend a lot of time with John Maxwell. One of the questions that John is always asking, it's more of a, I think even a posture than like a practical question, Schuyler, is what am I missing? And it's a really simple question, but I think the more your influence expands, the harder that becomes to ask, right? Because you tend to make assumptions. My default is I know how my team's doing. I know how our business is doing. I know how my friends are doing. Like I got my finger on all these different things and you get less feedback, right? Like that's just a reality of increased influence is you have fewer people around you willing to share the truth. And so, fighting for feedback and truth and increasing my awareness in conjunction with asking more questions, being slow to speak, quick to listen. Those are two of the things that I'm learning right now about leading our team and also leading the clients that we get to work with that have become really important, I think, at this stage of my leadership. And I haven't figured that out. There's a lot of days where I struggle with that, fail at that, but those are, and those are things that you're modeling, even just the podcast and then how you operate and even the conversations that we've had and the messages that we've exchanged. I mean, I think you're doing a great job with those, just creating space for people to share and coming with great questions. We always say a good question allows somebody to respond. A great question makes somebody reflect. And I think you model that well.
Thanks. Yeah. At least one approach to leadership that I have is to help people learn how to think the way that they need to get what they want. And, certainly again, as a parent, I've learned that people catch a lot more than maybe what they're taught. And so we can run our mouths and there are some that will listen. They're great at school. They were great in school and they can consume information and process it verbally by you just dictating. But that for most, that's really difficult. And I think when you're a leader that is asking questions, what you're truly doing is slowing people down and helping them think. Because the people we have working for us, they know the answer. They wouldn't be in the position they're in if they didn't know how to get the answer.
That's right.
But what they haven't learned because of experience or whatever is they haven't learned how to think yet. And so when we sit down as a leader and we ask them questions, just what you were saying, we are training them how to think. Because if you want a great answer, you need a great question.
That's right.
Right? Like that's the reality of it. We've heard that from 50 smart people. But people, at the end of every chapter in my book, I have a block that says thinking time. And then there's 3 or 4 questions. And because I know that as a leader, the things that have paid off the most for me is having some time to think and specifically ask myself questions. And so I'm leaning into what you're saying because it pays off. If you're not creating space for yourself to ask yourself questions or to ask your team questions, then you're not doing all the thinking that you should be doing. And they certainly aren't doing. Look, people got to where they're at today because they're great doers. Right? And we pay people more when they do more. But at some point, you're going to outdo your thinking if you don't set yourself some time aside to think. And we can help our team.
Well said.
Yeah.
And I think from a practical standpoint, for some people listening, if you want to become a better, people say, well, what do I do to become a better listener or a better question asker? And I really think it's a simple, Schuyler. You ask more questions and better questions.
Yeah.
And I think this idea of asking at least 3 questions in every conversation on any one topic with any one person.
Yeah.
So we ask typically the first question, and then maybe we'll ask the why behind the what, but we almost never ask the why behind the why.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think about this idea that like the best of what God put in people doesn't live on the surface. And so if you really want to get to know people, man, you got to ask more questions. And then better questions. I think a good question makes you likable. A great question makes you memorable. And again, a great question makes somebody think. It makes somebody reflect. It's open ended. It's thoughtful. It's specific. But I love this subject. We could spend a whole hour on just the topic of questions and listening.
Well, and people don't call it this, but it's training, right? When I hear leaders say, that they're not training in their organization, like, I mean, if you're just asking your team questions, they're like, hey, if this happens, what are you going to do? And you're forcing them to recall operating procedures or or even just think about a scenario before it happens. You're training. That's how easy training is too. You don't have to create a packet and like go in this special space and or do the catch me when I fall. You don't have to do all that stuff. You can do trainings in 5-minute spurts by asking great questions to your team. Hey, what if? Right? And I love hey, just why don't you tell me more about that? If you can be quiet and you say, well, tell me more about that. Or what does that mean to you? After they give you an answer, oh yeah, it gets rich.
Come on.
It gets really
That's so good. Yeah.
Yep.
Well said.
Yep. All right, dude. All right, leading your company. All right. So we're kind of getting above the one-to-one leadership, kind of getting to the company level where we're looking at either KPIs or culture or just these big things that move in business. What is the area that you think you could have chaos fast if you don't pay attention to it, or just an area that matters for steady production as a company?
I think for me, I've got to stay focused on the vision, like where we're headed. The big picture vision is something that I've got to continue to steward, think about, pray over, and carry. Because at the end of the day, I think actually in our business, Schuyler, I can empower people to do most things, and I should be empowering, this idea that your impact in leadership is really about what happens in your absence, not in your presence. And I'm buying into that more every day. It's like, man, I want to be away and have a company that's still really impactful. And so I got to empower and hand things off. And, but the one thing I think I don't know if I'll ever be able to totally hand off is the vision of where we're headed. So I spend a lot of time thinking about that when it comes to leading the company. Matthew Kelly does this great bit on, the amount of time that you spend thinking about, oftentimes, not always, but in the corporate world, the amount of time, the period of time that you spend thinking about oftentimes dictates or drives the amount of income earned, or the economic opportunity. And he gives the example of a drive-through, a restaurant that has a drive-through, like a fast food restaurant.
Yeah.
And have you heard this before? Have you heard Matthew Kelly do this? Okay.
No.
This is gold. It just is really thought-provoking. He said, if you are a drive-through worker, if you're the person that takes orders and punches an order, and God bless those people, we need those people. He said, you're kind of graded on about 60 seconds. So you think in like 60-second kind of windows, right? Like you got to get the order, process it, and then get somebody their food. 60 seconds would be like world class. Now it might take 120 seconds or whatever. But the point is, like, you're thinking in those kind of terms, right? Like minute by minute. And you're graded and evaluated based on how you do minute by minute. And you think about minute by minute. And you earn a wage for that, right? And then there's the store manager, and they're not thinking about the minute, they're thinking about the day. So they're thinking about a 24-hour period. How do we do this day? And they make a different wage, right? They make a little bit more. And then you have a regional manager, and the regional manager is making maybe twice the store manager. And they're not thinking about the day, they're thinking about the quarter. And you go all the way up to the CEO. And the CEO of America's top fast food restaurant makes $41 million per year. And that person thinks about the 25-year vision of that restaurant. That's their job. Now, I don't know, man. It's hard for me to think 25 years out. But the point is, I got to expand the period of time that I think about. And if I'm honest, a lot of times I struggle with that. I get caught in day-to-day stuff, and I want to be present, right? So there's this balance of like, man, I want to be present. I want to be where my feet are. I need to make today count, win today in front of me. Tomorrow's not promised, but also I want to set people up for an amazing future. And that requires me to think about next year, 5 years, maybe even be, I mean, somebody listening, they're like 25 years. Like what? Like I remember when Matthew Kelly said that. I'm like,
Yeah.
I mean, 25 years. And who am I to even assume that I want to be here 25 years from now? But it's not about what I'm going to be doing 25 years from now. It's how am I going to set people up? How do I build this business in such a way that 25 years from now, it has a whole lot more impact than it does today with or without me? So back to leading a company, the one thing I spend a lot of time thinking about and the one thing I'm focused on is just our vision for where we're going.
Yeah, that's good. How often do you communicate it to the team?
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And you know, part of it is, so somebody on this podcast is about to judge me, but I'm going to say this anyway. So there's this movie, maybe you've seen it, called Wolf of Wall Street. You seen Wolf of Wall Street?
Yeah.
Okay. So by the way, I don't agree with anything Jordan Belfort did. Okay. So I'm not advocating for like, you know, the type of business practices that they used or the things that he engaged in, but without question, Jordan Belfort was a magnetic, charismatic, gifted leader. He just used his charisma and his gifts in a certain direction. Now, I still think he's got a lot of leadership gifts, and he's doing some sales training and leadership training. He's kind of fascinating to listen to. I don't subscribe to everything he says, but he for sure could get people to move in a certain direction. So I wish I could recall the podcast. I can't recall it, but I'm driving down the road one day and I heard this clip of Jordan Belfort being interviewed about the Wolf of Wall Street story, you know, and this guy interviewing him was like, he was basically asking like true or false. Like, did this actually happen? Like, did the helicopter really crash? Did the boat really sink? Like, you know, did you really do that amount of drugs? It was all that kind of stuff. Right.
Yeah.
And he says, hey, you know, the scene where, you guys are in the pit and you're like screaming at your people, like multiple times a day, he'd get everybody together and they talk about where they're going and what's happening and who did what. And he's like, did that really happen? And oh yeah, he says that absolutely happened. And he was kind of debunking. So he's like, well, the boat didn't really sink and this didn't really happen. But that in the pit, he said that happened all the time. And he said, as leaders, sometimes we believe that we can cast vision on a Monday and we can wait 7 days to do it again. And he said, the problem is that especially if you're working with Gen Zers or the younger end of millennials, if you wait a week to do that again, it's like you're dead to them. You've lost. Yeah. They grew up in an instant communication era, like text messages and Instagram. I heard this the other day, Schuyler, the average high school age Instagram user checks Instagram 150 times per day.
Oh my goodness.
A lot of that's direct messaging, right? It's how they communicate. It's just, they don't remember a world where they couldn't get information and communication immediately.
Yeah.
So if you've got Gen Zers on your team, 31 years and younger, 32 years and younger, and you're not consistently casting vision, you're not pouring into them. Here's where we're headed. This is where we're going. This is where I'm taking. Man, it's like we're missing it, especially with that generation. So anyway, so those are things that I think about. But yeah, in almost every one-on-one or one-to-many conversation, we're trying to cast vision for our team.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew that'd be your answer. It's the reason why I asked. It's also, I think, the way we expose if our vision needs to change. Because one day, because people are like, well, how do you know if you're moving in the wrong direction? I think it's one day when you say it, like, hey, we're going here, and it just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel like, you know, I don't know. Then that's the time to go work again and say, all right, well, why didn't it feel right when I said it that time? You know, is there some piece of information that I received and I've thought about that now I need to just adjust, right? Doesn't mean the purpose is changing. It just means the way that we're going to get there is going to change a little bit.
That's right. Well said.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah. Love it. All right, man. We're going to wrap this thing up. If there was one thing for a young leader who's working hard on themselves, maybe even has a leadership opportunity that they're doing right now, and that they got big dreams for themselves. If there's one thing that you'd say, hey, look, just focus on this, and it'll produce results. What would that one thing be for you?
There's probably a bunch of things I could say that I think about. It's such a fun question. The one thing that hits me that's on my mind today that I would give to our younger listeners is just have a coachable spirit. And I think a lot of people think they have a coachable spirit. What they really have is a teachable spirit. I thought I had a coachable spirit when I was young. I really just had a teachable spirit. And there's a difference between coachable and teachable. And so for the young person listening, here's what I'd say. The average young person, like your peers, are going to go to an event. They're going to listen to a podcast. They're going to go to a meeting, and they're going to do what most other young people do, which is they're going to take notes. They're going to listen. They might decide to apply something, but it's going to stop there.
Yeah.
In other words, they're focused on the moment or the meeting. They're not focused on the future. And they're focused on the content. They're not focused on the application. If you want to be a coachable leader, a coachable young person, every podcast you listen to, every meeting you go to, every conference you attend, do these two things and everything will change. Number one is focus on application. Maybe as you're taking notes, you've got a sidebar with like to-dos, like here's what I'm going to do with what I just wrote down. Here's when I'm going to do it. Here's who I'm going to share it with. Like get really caught up in the application of what you're learning. So you're not focused on the moment, you're focused on the future. And then this is the big one, Schuyler. Focus on relationship with the person who taught you. Most young people miss that. So like, I remember I had an opportunity to interview Steve Forbes, who, Forbes magazine. And we have 900 students at the University of Iowa. And this memorial, the IMU is packed. This building's packed. And, I don't know, everybody's 18 to 22 years old. You've got one of the brightest business minds in today's America, arguably in our nation's history. And he gets done talking. And of those 900 students that heard Mr. Forbes speak that day, there were 4 of them that stayed to talk to him. Now, a couple took pictures. There was a line of people that want pictures. But there's a difference between like, I want your picture and I want a conversation.
Yeah.
Of those 4, there's one who was able to stay in touch and develop a relationship. And I would argue that one person is having more success today than the other 900 people. Maybe not because of that one conversation of the relationship with Mr. Forbes, but that's what happens to a person with a coachable spirit. They develop relationships, and all of life is about relationships. And that one young man, every meeting, every conference, every event, every book, every podcast, man, I got to get to the author. I got to get to the podcast host. I got to get to that speaker. I got to get to that leader. How do I develop a relationship so that I can continue learning because I've got a coachable spirit, not a teachable spirit? So that's the one thing I'm thinking about.
Hey team, I'm so grateful that you're listening to this video and that you're working on yourself to become a better leader. Listen, if you want more models on how to become a steady leader, if you want models on how to lead yourself, how to lead your team, and how to lead your business, go pick up my book, The Steady Leader, on Amazon right now, and I will give you the models to use to bring clarity to your chaos.
Yeah. No, that's good. It's motivating too, because part one, I'm brilliant at. Like I am a doer. I actually remember things really well because I'll take the content, I apply it to something, and then I know it because now I have recall. Like I have a memory to do it. But I would never be the person that would stay after to go meet, Mr. Forbes to try to create a relationship. And it's a limiting belief. It's a story I have in my head that I'd be bothering him, or, like that would be what I would love it. If I had the opportunity, probably like you said, John Maxwell, if I had the opportunity to meet the guy, I would love that. But I let this story, right, in my head, about how busy they are, or, they got more important people to work with or whatever. Like I let that push me out the door. And it's good to hear you say that so I can be more motivated about that kind of stuff.
And same as like, this isn't just a message for young leaders. This is for me. This is for you, Schuyler. This is for any leader at any age. We all have a relational opportunity that's so often right in front of us that we're not taking advantage of. And so I'm like, man, what book are you reading? What podcast are you listening to? What major event are you attending with a leader that's right in front of you that you haven't tapped into the right way?
Yep.
Hey, by the way,
So
just real quick on that note, because I think sometimes we do attempt to chase after that person, but we do it maybe in the wrong way. So I know this sounds really simple, and maybe this is elementary for some people listening, but I just want to, I want to speak into this real quick. What you don't want to do is reach out to the speaker or the leader or the author and say, I loved your book. Can I pick your brain? Or I loved your book. Could we grab some time? Something way better would be reach out to the author that wrote the book and say, I read your book and I'm reaching out to say thank you because it's changed my life or it's changed the way that I do X, Y, and Z. Here's the 5 top things that I learned and I wanted to share. So I'm being specific. I'm coming with the heart of gratitude. Then if I'm going to ask for anything, I'm going to ask in 2 ways. One is I'm going to ask in service to them. Is there something that you care about that's on your mind, that's important to you that I could get behind? I want to add value to you because you've added value to me. In other words, make the leader's agenda your agenda and just watch what happens. Now, most of the time they're going to say, hey, I got nothing. If they do respond, it's like, but what they know is you got a spirit where you want to contribute and help and add value. 2 is say, hey, if you're too busy,
I'm so good.
all
right, brother. Well, we're going to wrap it right here. Okay. You got me?
I got you. Yep.
All right. Well, I'm not even going to try to hide this. About a week ago, Jordan and I were talking, and at the very end of the podcast, everything just decided to shut down and we couldn't find a way to reconnect. But here we are a week later, picking things up where we left off. And really, we're just going to wrap up. But I think it's so interesting that we get to end this with a week of time to think. So, Jordan, you've had a week to think about the things we talked about. And so I'm going to prompt you here, but just your final thoughts for the folks that are listening to this podcast. You know, what would you leave them with that you know as a leader is just going to make them better, that they can focus on and just be more steady?
Well, I think what happened to us, and just so the listeners know, it was on my end. So listen, this was not Schuyler's fault. This was my fault. We had some sort of internet connection issue, but here we are. And it's sort of a microcosm, I think, of just a leader's journey. You know, there are so many just unexpected twists and turns. I mean, I look at your story, Schuyler. I look at my life and just the unexpected challenges, but also the great opportunities. I had an old mentor who would say, you are never as good or as bad as you think you are.
Yeah.
And to that end, I would also say it is never as good or as bad as you think it is. So, you know, one of the things I'm learning about is just emotional intelligence and not being too high on the highs or low on the lows. And I just, for some reason, Schuyler, this is on my mind this morning. I mean, life is just so temporary, you know, and the things that we stress about and worry about is going to fade. And I'm thankful that I get to hang out with guys like you, get to know people like you, have conversations like this that are eternally significant, I think, and are focused on the things above. And so if you're listening today and you're stressed out, driving down the road, maybe you're dealing with a challenge, or maybe today's just challenging, wherever today finds you, just know that this is a temporary life. You're dealing with a temporary problem. God has great hope for you in eternity through our Savior Jesus.
Amen, brother.
Yeah, man. I just thought that, been thinking about that this morning, and man, it's been an honor to have this conversation with you.
Yeah. Well, we're grateful for your time. Well, how can people follow you and see what you're doing and just engage with you more?
So probably do the most on LinkedIn and Instagram. Instagram's Jordan M. Montgomery, and then LinkedIn, I think pretty easy to find, just under my name. Our website is montgomerycompanies.com. And if somebody has a question or a thought, I love getting like the direct messages. So reach out, ask a question, let's connect. If I can be helpful, would love to be a resource, Schuyler, to anybody in your community. If you're friends with Schuyler, you're friends with me. So So let's talk. And Schuyler, also look forward to staying connected with you, man. You're such a generous, kind host, gifted communicator, great leader, man. I just respect the way that you're living and choosing to operate. So again, been an honor.
Thanks.
I mean, you can't make this up. And I get a phone call to sign off.
Yeah.
I'm honest. Peter.
I mean, it makes it fun. Keeps us on our toes.
It's-
Well, let me just say, I mean, man, I wasn't going to end it this way, but I'm going to. The world needs steady leaders now more than ever. And, obviously, like I'm bought into the steady leader mindset and just being a rock that people can lean on. But I want everyone to know that everything that you've gone through, all of the adversities, all of the challenges that you've experienced in life, they are to equip you for something in the future. And I spoke to a group last night in Dallas. I got home at 1 a.m. Because I like to see my babies when they wake up. But I spoke to this group, and when you speak, you share your story, and then you share the lessons that you've learned because you've overcome challenges that people are going through in the moment. I was coming off the stage, and they weren't even done thanking me yet for coming and speaking to them. And a lady grabbed me by the arm and said, "Hey, I need to talk to you." And we went off to the side, and she started to talk, but she couldn't finish what she was saying. She started crying, and I gave her a hug, and it felt like about 2 minutes before she could gather herself. And she said, "My son is in the audience, and she needed to hear your message. She needed to hear your story." And obviously, I was grateful that she shared that with me, and I was grateful that God put me in a position maybe to touch a life. And so then I went on after that to shake hands and kiss babies, probably with another 20 people or so. But then she came up with her son. Her son, he expressed gratitude for the message and said he had a lot to think about. And again, I was grateful. I asked for his number. He gave me his number, and and I offered him the opportunity to speak with me whenever he needed it. But God put it on my heart at 5:30 this morning to send him a note. He replied. And so I just, I haven't changed his life yet. And maybe I didn't, but maybe I did. And I just need people to know that you have to work on yourself every single day, because you never know when you have the opportunity to lead someone out of a mess that they're in. So go be steady leaders. All right, Jordan, I'm grateful, man.
Well said, man. Thanks for having me, Schuyler.
You got it. See you.
If today's episode helped you lead with a little more clarity and calm, share it with someone who needs it. Remember to stay grounded, stay focused, stay steady. Follow me on Instagram and LinkedIn at Schuyler Williamson for more leadership insights and behind-the-scenes content. You can also visit SchuylerWilliamson.com for more ways to connect with me. Until next time, I'm Schuyler Williamson. Steady on.